Hey, welcome to Epilogue. I'm really excited about this episode. Got to sit down with Tom Lancaster, longtime member of Faith Bible Church. And Tom is an architect, but also a theologian and loves science and all of those things and how they play into the Genesis account. And so as we've been in our Genesis series, I thought we could invite Tom in to just dig a little deeper into some of the scientific evidence that points to a creator. So I hope you enjoy this. Well, Tom, thanks so much for joining us on Epilogue today. Really appreciate you coming in.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so, man, I've known you and Gay and your family for a long time. In fact, you were on the elder board when I was hired here 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So we go back as far as my beginning here. But you've been around. You guys have been at Faith Bible Church now for since when? When?
We joined in 1984, actually.
40 years.
Yeah, been a long time.
Yeah, so the church is, we're in our 45th year as a church this year. And so you guys have been around since the beginning, since the Genesis.
Almost, yeah,
since the Genesis of Faith Bible Church. I love it. You get my Genesis joke there. We're talking about Genesis. And so I'm cheesy. But anyway, so yeah, you've raised your kids in this church. You've raised
Some grandkids.
some grandkids
right,
here.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And more than that, so you are an architect by trade,
I
a
am.
master
I
architect,
am.
I would add.
Right.
And
Well,
so like you walk through the halls of this building, and I don't know that everybody knows this, but particularly so the phase one of this building was built by a different architect,
correct.
but you were on the board of
I was on the building committee.
the building
Yeah.
committee, yeah.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, everything, the newer parts of this building,
Yeah, the phase two and the worship center
Yeah.
came from my firm, and also then the renovation of this building
yeah.
also came from my firm. Correct.
So there's probably not a part of this building that you walk through that you haven't had a hand in personally.
That's pretty much right. Yeah.
I like it, man. So you were joking with me earlier. I talked about because today we're talking about Genesis 1 and the design and creation, God's design and creation, and I said, so you're an architect by trade, and
Yeah, and I said I know design when I see it. Yeah,
I
right.
love that, man. You know design when you see it, right?
Yeah.
So you're able to design a building. You're able to walk into a building and look at the intricacy of the design and kind of know what happens behind the scenes. And I think in the same way, you have a passion for looking at creation through the same lens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like if you look at a high-rise building, for example. I know that didn't evolve from a piece of iron ore
Sure.
by itself over years. I know I know that there was intelligent input into
Yeah.
that because everything about it speaks to the fact that somebody did that, somebody designed it, somebody preconceived it,
Yeah.
somebody had to manufacture it, and all these rules have to be in laws and codes have to be followed for it to function correctly.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I know that when I look at life on Earth, it's
Yeah.
the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. There's clearly intelligent design, purpose, intention. It's just
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and so we're gonna dive a little deeper into that in our conversation, and I'm super excited about this. But before we do that, I mean, so you're an architect by trade, but tell us about like your heart's passion is. I mean, obviously you're passionate about design and architecture, but when it comes to the Bible, you're a passionate teacher. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh gosh. How did I get to be a teacher? Do you mean, or
Yeah, I mean,
whatever?
just
Well, I think it's probably part of it starts, at least in terms of what I would say, talking about Genesis. I had when I became saved, I was about 22 years old, and and about that time I remember reading something that had to do with how the theory of evolution was faulty, and I had never run across that
Hmm.
before, and that immediately started diving into that
Yeah.
a lot, and but there were other things too. My wife and I were both able to take a Through the Bible course when we were young in our
Mm.
faith, and that helped us a lot. I mean, it covered Old Testament and New Testament in a 2-year period.
Wow.
And then I
Yeah.
was asked to teach that in the church where we were at the time, which was back in we lived in Alief at the time, and so that's how I started teaching. And then I
That's
started
cool.
running a youth group, and it just went from one thing to the next.
Wow. Yeah.
So since then, I've started writing and doing other things.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. You've written a book
I have. Yeah,
just on eternal rewards, and
yeah.
great book on that. It's a helpful resource for people. For folks watching? What's the name of the book?
It's improving the quality of your eternal life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Published maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago,
Yeah.
probably something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, just a passion for God's word, a passion for teaching. You've taught a ton here at Faith Bible Church over the
Yeah.
years, and
Yeah, I teach at a prison
Yeah.
in Navasota every Monday night,
that's awesome, man.
and the guys love it. They just they love going deep into the Word. The guys that are in my class anyway, so we have fun with that.
Yeah, you're telling me just walking up here that you're in Romans right now, but like to go back and forth between Old and New Testament just to give them exposure to all of God's word. And
I
yeah,
do, and of course the Old Testament is kind of in story form or picture form, which points to a lot of the things in the New Testament. And you may not realize how deep the Old Testament
Mm.
really is until you start taking these stories and pulling them apart piece by piece. They're just amazing, just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But they're more colorful than the New Testament, because the New Testament has a lot of doctrine and
Yeah.
theology in it. But the Old Testament, it's all in picture form
right.
or in story form.
Yeah.
And it's embodied within these things that happen, and you realize how much God is in control of history and how He orchestrates history so that these truths are self-evident. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's why, like, when you get into the New Testament and there are letters that have been written that kind of outline our theology. I mean, you could literally do a structural outline of most of Paul's letters, but within that, they draw back to the Old Testament because it's just vivid with color and illustration, and
yes,
helps
yes.
us understand these theological truths.
Yeah, that's why I like going back and forth, because
Yeah.
you go from the stories to the doctrine and back and forth. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so cool. And so, I think that's a good segue into talking about Genesis, because there's a lot in the New Testament about trusting God, about His sovereignty, His control over everything, and so really the foundational principles for that are in Genesis 1, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and so we want to draw some of that out today and just talk about how it all points to Him, and how that impacts how we trust Him, and whether or not we trust Him. And so let's start at the beginning. I feel like that's a good place to start, don't you?
Sure.
Genesis
Sure.
1:1, right? So right off the bat, it says, "In the beginning, God created." In the beginning, God created. And so in that first revelation to mankind in God's word, this profound foundational truth is just laid out there, that God created. And
Yes.
so I want to start with the question, what happens, what are the implications, rather, if you reject that truth, that God created it all?
Yeah. Golly. Where
That's
do we
that's
start
a
with that?
loaded
Yeah.
question, right? But
Well, number one, if you reject the fact that God created it, number one, you're going to be looking for other ways in which the universe came about that are they're going to lead you down a lot of wrong paths. But more importantly, you're going to reject God as being sovereign, as being the boss, as being the organizer and the director and the preserver of all the things He has made. You're not going to see Him in the roles that He plays if you reject the fact that He created it, which means that you're not going to be living your life in a way of being thankful and grateful and appreciative, much less being able to accept further revelation. If you reject that initial revelation that God, that's the first revelation in the Bible, in fact, right there.
yeah,
If you reject that, then you're not going to be open to other things that He wants to reveal in your life. That's why Jesus spoke in parables. In fact, He began speaking in parables because other people were rejecting the truths He had already been given. He's not going to give them more truth. It's kind of like, I use the example oftentimes of a teacher in elementary school teaching the kids addition and subtraction. If they won't receive it and won't take that, is the teacher going to go on to multiplication and give them tests on that? No, he's not. He's going to make sure they know the first one first before he goes to build on top of that. and we're responsible for the revelation
Yeah,
God has given us.
absolutely.
And if we reject the most basic revelation He's given us, He's not going to be so mean as to pile a bunch of other stuff on us that we're also going to be responsible for. No, we need to accept that initial one.
Yeah,
And when we accept that initial one, then He begins to expand our view
yeah.
and the depth of our understanding. And
Mm,
that's the amazing thing about Him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and that's I think everything you're saying is, I mean, it like that first truth impacts how you're going to read the rest of the Bible, right?
It does.
It's
It
just what you
does.
said, like it impacts our ability to understand God's revelations past that, right?
Right.
And then that like you said, just circling back, summarizing, I don't want people to miss these points that it not only impacts like how we view the universe, but it impacts like us deeply on a personal level, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because if we don't believe he created it, then I don't believe he created me. And then what's my purpose and meaning? And then
Yeah.
you just kind of the domino effect from that point.
Yeah, if He
Yeah,
created you, then He owns you. He governs you.
yeah,
He's looking after you. He's revealing other stuff to
mm,
you. He's concerned about you. He loves you.
yeah,
And the fact that you're in His image, which Russell has talked
yes,
quite a bit about too, has a lot of things to do with how you're able to relate to God. For
mm,
example, we're spiritual beings. God created us for a purpose and for a reason, and we have certain, as
mm,
Russell says, certain responsibilities and
mhm,
things that that we're put in charge of and so forth. So
yeah,
if you reject God as the creator, you're throwing all that down the tubes,
yeah,
and
so
so
true.
you're going to lose a lot about. You're not going to understand the meaning of life,
Hmm,
or the purpose of life,
yeah,
or your calling in life,
mm,
and that's going to all have an effect on you in eternity too.
yeah,
Even if you're a believer,
absolutely.
it's going to affect you in eternity if you don't pursue all these things that God has done and is doing and wants to do. And this all goes back to the fact that He created you to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man. There are so many things in what you just said that we could probably spend multiple episodes on a podcast on
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
podcasts,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh,
I,
yeah.
I I love I love this, Tom. This is great, man. So, um, and you've written kind of a paper on this, and I'm referencing some of this, but you also talk about just how you mentioned wasting our life, but then also, man, we're just going to wrestle with God and fight against Him if we don't understand it, right? Which like
Mm.
it brings in an element, I think, of frustration, like when we don't understand that He created it all and He's in control, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I thank God. But in the book of Job, I think Job is
yeah,
questioning things, and God says, "Hey, who are you?
yeah,
you know, where were you when I did this, and where were you when I created that, and did
yeah,
these things? You don't understand how uh, uh, we're not well, we can question God. Don't get me wrong, and
yeah,
I don't actually don't think He minds that, but
yeah,
we're not. He's the one with all the knowledge, and He's going to reveal that to us, and we need to listen and learn and absorb from Him is what we need
yeah.
to do, not reject it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So it just helps us find this place of peaceful rest and trust in Him,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
yeah, I like that. There's more that we can unpack there, but let's keep moving on because I want to talk about the issue of faith. I mean, a lot of what we're talking about right now is faith and trust in God's words. That first statement in the Bible, God created, and I think a lot of times I've struggled. You've probably struggled. Lots of people struggle with creation because Genesis 1:3, like we read it and it isn't written like a science textbook necessarily, right? Um, I mean, we see creation in it. We see God doing this, but we struggle because we struggle to believe things that we can't see, right? So, like, if I could just see God making it, or if I could see how He did it, or if there's some discovery that could show me, man, like we want to see it, right? Like, so we
Yeah.
struggle with that. Um,
Well, let me just comment on something you
yeah,
said. It's not written as a scientific textbook. That's
yeah,
true, but there are scientific
100%. Yeah,
truths
yeah,
in it that we should not ignore.
yeah.
So that's important. If you start
Yeah.
digging into that, you'll see some things that really apply.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And by no means that
mm,
statement is not to mean it's not scientific. It means that man, we want it all to be there. And then, unfortunately it's like it's not all there, right? But we get tons of clues in it. And we're gonna talk about some of those here in a
well, let's
second.
go back to faith again
Yeah.
too. There were no eyewitnesses to creation,
Right.
obviously. I
Right.
mean, God was it. So
Yeah. And
so
that's the point. That's the point I
so
want to talk about.
regardless of whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, you're believing what you believe about the origin of the universe by faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the different thing between a non-believer's faith and our faith is that our faith is not, God doesn't ask us for blind faith. He
Mm-hmm.
gives us substantial evidence to back up what we believe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of us don't know what that evidence is or haven't been taught what that evidence is. But once you start getting into it, it's just amazing to
Yeah.
me. So God never asks us to believe something blindly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And and you referenced Hebrews 11 3 in this article you wrote, that by faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of the things which are visible. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it is by faith, but this is the cool part, is there's so much evidence that helps us in our faith, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
and so in that sense, yeah, like, man, like even the scientific evidence points to a creator. And so
Exactly right.
to me, that's the fun part, and that's where I want to go next, is just talking
Okay.
about some of these scientific principles and realities that point to the creator. So we exercise faith in God's word that he did create it, but we look at the evidence and it all points to him. And so
Sure.
let's unpack some of that,
All
okay?
right.
Because I think this is the fun part. So start with some scientific laws, right? Let's start there.
Oh gosh. Well, we have different laws of thermodynamics. For
Uh-huh.
example, of course, one of my favorites. You can't. Something can't come from nothing.
Mhm.
That's probably one of the most basic laws. And entropy is another one, the second law of thermodynamics, which explains that the universe is and all created things are running down. We see that too. That's, of course, that didn't happen until Adam sinned.
Mm-hmm.
We see that the whole universe is groaning, but things like rust, decay, rot,
Yeah.
disease, even planetary orbits and things of that sort are different things out in the universe are decaying and rotting and
Yeah.
blowing up, whatever they
Yeah.
are. So we see the decay happening in our universe. You can't ignore it. It happens
Mm.
everywhere. So those are a couple of the
Yeah.
basic laws. Yeah.
Yeah. The law.
And there are a number of physics laws too that come into play that we see things happening in our solar system and so forth that can only be, I guess, it only could be the way they are. If they were designed, they would never happen by random chance.
Can we talk about some of those? Because I think this is so
Mhm.
cool. Like, just looking out at our solar system, and you've referenced a couple, but just even some of the unique compositions of planets.
Oh gosh, there's probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 different scientific hypotheses about how the solar system evolved.
Yeah.
Okay, but none of them make any real sense, and none of them are supported by any of the scientists as being fact.
Yeah.
They're all just. But when you start looking at the solar system, oh my gosh! First of all, you've got some of the basic theories are things like, well, the sun captured the planets, or something blew up and the planets formed from the fragments that were blown up, or maybe some dust, solar dust, and other things collected and lumped together and formed planets. But golly, when you look at all of our planets, they're all so unique and so
Mm.
different. It's obvious they didn't come from a single source. They're all in essentially circular orbits. I would say Mercury's a little bit more of a elliptical orbit, but the other ones are pretty much all circular orbits. The plus or minus a couple of percentile
Yeah.
of being out of a perfect
Yeah.
circle. And circular orbits just don't happen randomly. You know,
No.
if the sun was going to capture a planet rushing by it, well, the planet would rush by and it'd go way out there, and the sun would bring it all the way back, and it would form into an orbit, something like Halley's Comet, for
Hmm.
example. And so, but the end result of an elliptical orbit is where the two objects collide. That's what happens. That's
Yeah,
what happens in the
right.
end. It gets closer and closer until they collide.
Yeah, but there's no collisions in our solar
Yeah.
system.
So if you
which
find a
is-
circuit orbits only happen by design.
Mhm.
That's the only way something can get into a circuit orbit is if it's put there that way to begin with. And you've got things like the Earth spins on its axis, around, and our moon didn't come from the Earth. So where did it come from? And if it came from the Earth itself, then it would be in the same plane of orbit as we are. But it's in a highly elliptical orbit, for example. And you got some moons on some of the planets they're going both directions, and a lot of this just doesn't make any sense. So none of the planets came from each other. They didn't come from the sun. They didn't come from the Earth, or the Earth didn't come from them. Nothing makes any sense. In fact, I think God created everything in such a way that the only conclusion, the only logical scientific conclusion you can come to from looking at all of it is that it was placed there, deliberately placed there. In fact, there's this word in Genesis, I think it's the Hebrew word yakad or whatever I believe it is, that means fixed. When he put things in place, it means he fixed them into certain positions that they are, so that you have things like night and day and so forth. And
Yeah.
so there.
It's phenomenal, man. I mean,
Yeah.
thinking about just like, the different composition, gaseous planets versus, I mean, what we're finding on the planets and just their atmospheres are so different, and it's just like, what, like, how does that happen by accident? And you're talking about different orbits, and you've got backwards orbits and inclined orbits, and you've got the way they spin on different axes, and then you've got rings. Like,
Yeah.
what, that just seems like a bonus right
Well,
there.
well, some of these are, for instance, Saturn's got rings and it's got all this dust out there and things orbiting around it.
Yeah.
But is any of that dust clumping into planets around Saturn? Has it done so over the years? No, it has not. I mean, so God has even put things in our solar system that dispute or work against some of these theories about how the solar system evolved to begin with. Um, so but anyway, Earth is unique in all those because
Incredibly unique.
just unbelievably unique. And it's the only thing that we know of only place we know of where life exists in the universe. It's not that there aren't other probably solar systems out there or one thing or another, but there's no life, the evidence that we know of life anywhere else. In fact, the universe seems quite deadly. It's not just devoid of life; it's threatening to to destroy life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Which makes it challenge to colonize like a planet like Mars, right? I mean, it's like, how are we going to do that if we can't breathe?
I don't know why we would want to do something like that. Yeah,
I'm not signing up or anything, although I think it'd be cool. But it's So talk about I mean, you're talking about the Earth's moon, and so talk about the uniqueness of planet Earth. And I mean, like it's.
Oh gosh, there's probably a long list of things. And I think maybe in my paper I may have only mentioned a dozen of them or so. But not only is the Earth's rotational period perfect for life, and its axial tilt, its distance from the sun, the way the moon goes around it, and all of those things help life be stable on this planet, so that we're not too hot, we're not too cold. We're not, things of that sort. But also, we have certain chemical mixes in our atmosphere, in our soils. We've got water. We have tides. We've got all sorts of other things that make life, make the planet inhabitable,
Right.
And suitable for life. And there's probably a list of 20 or 30 things at least, a minimum, that I could go through on all this, and you won't find these things on any other planet or anywhere else in the solar system that we know of, or anywhere else in the universe that we know of. And so all these things together have to be there. You can't just have one of them, and be the other one's missing, you have to have them all together.
Yeah.
And so, what are the odds of that? It's just it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's just so the Earth is an extremely unique place, and I think it bears the evidence that it was
Hmm.
designed the way it is because the way the Earth is would not happen randomly anywhere else in the
Sure.
universe.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned all these aspects that make Earth inhabitable, and if you just remove one of those, right, it kind of all falls apart, right? It's one of those things just throws it out of balance,
Yeah.
and it's you know, we can't live here, right? It's
Yeah, if our gravitational pull wasn't exactly right, the thickness of our crust or the water vapor that
Mhm.
we have, minerals in the soil, like I said, the interaction with our moon, atmospheric pressure. Gosh, you start thinking of all the things that we have. That we have. If any one of those was gone, life wouldn't exist as
Mm.
we know it on this planet, or wouldn't last long. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And God preserves it and controls it and directs it.
Yeah.
Um, it's God who's in control of the seasons and the years and the timing and all that. He knows all this stuff, and
Yeah.
he runs it. He runs the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He runs the show, and and so it's like you mentioned just um yeah, the decay and sometimes chaotic events that happen because of the fall, and so the curse of the fall, and so like we've got a giant hurricane barreling toward Florida right now,
You're
right?
exactly right. Yeah, and
Mm.
that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature does not only are because of the fall does is man kind of at odds with nature as we see in Genesis 3, but nature itself is at odds with itself. Let's put it that
It's
way.
groaning, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, all creation is groaning and waiting for the redemption, our redemption, basically.
yeah.
We're going to see a little bit of that when Jesus comes back, because in the millennium he's going to put things at peace. The animal world will be at peace with itself. Men will live to be maybe as long as 1,000 years, and things of that sort. It won't be totally back. It won't be but at some point there's going to be a totally new heavens and a new
Yeah.
earth without the effect of sin at all in it, without the effect of entropy, should I say, the
Yeah.
second law of
There
thermodynamics,
you
where
go.
things are wearing out, running down, wasting away. Um, and I think even the entropy even works in terms of our orbits are becoming a little bit more wobbly
Hmm.
over the millennia, for example, than they probably were originally.
Sure.
Things of that sort.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Man,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I love how deep you've dived into this, and my guess is we are just scratching the surface on most of this
Oh yeah.
and that's
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's what's incredible, and that goes back to just, I mean, when you read Genesis 1 through 3, it's so dense, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned that word of God fixing it, right? It's
Yeah.
and so just that part. I mean, you could stop and just think about that and look around at all the evidence we have, especially now with um, the technology we have in telescopes and what we can see in space, and just to think that, and it's all contained in that verse. You and I were talking about God's design of birds, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
it began teeming with birds flying, and I don't know if you want to talk about his design in birds, but
Oh
that was
gosh.
fascinating
Yeah.
to me. Even heading in, we're talking about the solar system,
Yeah.
but come down to a micro. That's the macro level, right? Micro level of just little tiny birds.
Yeah. Well, if the same principle is true with birds as about the earth and
Yeah.
about life on the earth. For example, you b- when if it comes to Darwinian evolution, birds have so many different things going on with them that all
Hmm.
have to happen at the same time, just like the earth has to have all these features and things going on with it to
Hmm.
make life suitable. A bird has to have feathers. He's got to have a lightweight body. He's got to have hollow bones. He's got
Hmm.
to have a sense of ability to fly in the air, and those air sense, I should call it. He's got to have telescopic vision. He needs his claws, and the muscle systems and the wings all and the feathers all have to work together to be able to do certain things.
Hmm.
You cannot have a bird with one of those things without the rest. If you have feathers, but you've got solid bones, you're gonna jump off a cliff and
Yeah.
just the bird's gonna fall down and kill himself.
Yeah.
So what advantage is it to have one of them without all the rest? There
Yeah.
is no advantage.
You remove one of those and he falls.
He doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So golly, and I'm sure I've skipped over a bunch of things in
That's
terms of birds,
yeah.
but that's one example. You can take any life form, in fact, and go through that same thing with that life form.
Absolutely.
Um, eyes are another things.
Yeah.
Scientists don't know how they could possibly have evolved.
Yeah.
They're way too complicated. You can't take a piece of an eye and then build on that to another piece and another
Right.
piece. It doesn't work
Yeah.
because until you have all the parts of the eye together functioning and operating to do what it needs to do, it's no
Mm.
good.
Yeah.
So everything had to happen at the same time, and the only way it could all happen at the same time was for it to be designed that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Intricacy and intelligent design in it. So
Correct.
yeah, you compared it in this article you wrote. You compared it to a Thomas Kincaid painting. I love that comparison of this painting with this beautiful landscape and sky, and then this beautiful house with the chimney. And talk about that a little bit.
Oh, well, I was trying to point out how unique the Earth is, and I was making the point that if you were the first man to land on the moon, you and your partner, let's say you landed on the moon, and so you started taking a walk from your landing craft, and you look at a hill maybe a couple of miles away, and say, let's see what's on the other side of that hill. So you walk over there, and as you're walking along, you realize that you're grateful for your spacesuit and for the oxygen you've got, and you realize that not only are they helping you survive here, but that without them you would be dead, and that life on
Hmm.
the moon could not exist, without these things. So as you're walking along, you come up with this hill, and you look over it, and next thing you know, you see this little house
Hmm.
and a little garden around it, and a cat sitting on the porch, and a couple of trees in the garden, and a little white picket fence around it, and a little sidewalk.
Hmm.
And you go, where did that come
Yeah.
from? You're stunned, and it's got a little kind of little atmosphere around it, and so you can at that point you can come to one of several conclusions. You can say, okay, it's all just evolved. This is just one of those
Hmm.
things that happens on the moon every now and then.
Hmm.
Yeah, the wind blew along and found some wood and stuck them all up in a row, and they happened to fasten together because some other feature drove some nails through it. However those nails got made, you don't know. And the
Mhm.
and the stones all just piled on top of each other to form a chimney, and
Sure.
somehow or other a fire got started in it, and there's smoke coming out of the chimney, and where the trees came from, you're not sure, but it all evolved. Well, no,
Yeah.
you wouldn't come to that conclusion. You would say this is really strange. It doesn't. This house doesn't belong on this planet.
Yeah.
It's so the other so that's the other viewpoint is you're looking at this house and go, somebody put that here.
Mhm.
That's the only way it could be here, and that's what it'd be like if you were flying through space.
Mm.
And you came upon the Earth in the middle of this universe, or in the middle of our solar system, and all of a sudden you saw all the things that you see on the Earth, you would look at it as if it were this
Yeah.
house on the moon. I mean, it's in the middle of a universe that's deadly
Yeah.
and blowing apart, and
Hostile to life. Yeah. It's
you've
just
got
you.
planets colliding into things, asteroids colliding into
Mhm.
things. You got binary systems where nothing binary suns
Mhm.
where nothing could possibly live there, and you run across Earth. It's just stunning,
Yeah.
and to think it just evolved or got here by accident or by chance
You,
would be
you'd
unbelievable.
You'd have to
Think.
look at it and say, "Gosh, this is so intelligently and intentionally
Done.
designed." Right?
Correct. It's exactly right.
This is that architect mentality. You walk in and somebody built this, right? And boy, look at the design on this. That was
Yeah, it'd
amazing,
be like
right?
me walking through the desert, for
Yeah,
example, and all of a sudden I come upon this building out in the middle
yeah,
of a desert. I go, well, somebody designed that. It
yeah,
didn't just pop up out of the desert.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, and the Earth is like that. It's a very, very, very unique place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's the remote island in the middle of nowhere that the sailor gets stranded on what's he looking for first? Signs of life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be in something that's man-made. And if he finds that, he's not going to make any other assumption that, okay, somebody is here or was here, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, very cool. Well, just to wrap up our time, because I mean, there's so much more we could talk about in this. I
Yeah.
mean, we could dive deep on each of these, but in Genesis 1 throughout it, God says it was good. It was good. And so talk about God's goodness in creation. And what I really like to try to do here is connect that to that trust concept that we talked about earlier. But
Goodness gracious. Well, in saying it was good, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that it was good for mankind.
mm,
Good for man to live on, good for man to be able to do the things God wanted him to do, good for man to rule and have dominion. Um, so everything was created in such a way that man was in harmony with all of creation, and could play the role that
mm,
God wanted him to play. Um, I think there's only one day in which it's not said it was good, and that's day two. And that's when God's dividing firmaments from firmaments. And my thoughts on that is that God would someday take the water that was underneath the
mm.
crust and flood the earth with it. And so I usually look at that and say, well, that's probably why he didn't say day two was good, because he's going to change that at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
Interesting. Yeah.
but in any case, that became a judgment.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fact that it was good means it was satisfying to what God intended for it to be.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's true, then that connects to that principle of if God created it and he called it good, then we can trust him.
Absolutely.
And we can trust him on a deeply personal level,
Absolutely.
with our
Yeah.
lives.
And he
So,
created male and female too, which is another thing, which has um, the relationship between a man and wife should be the kind of relationship we have between Christ and his church, for example.
Yeah.
But that's the relationship, that's the intimate relationship God wants to have with us.
That's right.
That gets back to evolution too. You try to figure out how sex evolved, how genders evolved. It's impossible.
Right.
You can't have one without the other. They both have to be simultaneous
Yeah.
for there to be anything to work. So
Fascinating. And then that has, if God's the designer of that, you already mentioned it, alluded to it, that has implications on our unique gender roles. It has implications on our marriages and our families and even the church. I mean,
right.
it just
you will never fully understand marriage if you don't accept God as
Hmm.
created it to begin with and
Yeah.
intended it for it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And it all goes back to we can trust him, right? And so in all of
Absolutely.
these things, we're made to depend on him and rely on him for our marriages, for our kids, for our lives, for the work that he's given us to do on this earth. And
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I love that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I take away from this conversation, Tom, and I hope people take away is that, if we believe God created it all, then we can trust that he's good
Absolutely.
and that he's sovereign, that he's in control. And
Absolutely. And when you do that, life is a lot different
It
than
is,
it would
isn't
be
it?
otherwise. You look at what mankind is afraid of today.
Mm,
And the reason there are so many fears out there today, fear of man destroying himself, or fear of global warming, fear of some asteroid hitting us, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's all sorts of fears out there. Uh, all those fears come because of a lack of trust in God and a lack of recognition that God is in control, not us,
yeah.
when it comes to those major global things like that. And so that's it. Life is a lot different when you put your faith in God.
Yeah. Because we can trust
Yeah.
no matter what happens, he's in control. And
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. And I think even in moments like this where we see the craziness in the world, whether that's wars or hurricanes hitting, whatever it is,
Yeah.
the political climate that we're heading into, it's just we can trust God and we can trust that he's in control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also just a way for us to kind of continue to mature in our faith, because
Absolutely.
things like that oftentimes require us to place a deeper trust in him than we may have had before,
Mhm.
and to rest in his His love and His sovereignty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I think that's a great word to close our time on. And so, Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for this conversation and just for just sitting down with me and talking through this. And for those of you watching, man, I hope today was an encouragement to you and for you. I'd love for you to get to know Tom. You can find him any Sunday morning. He and Gay are here just about every week, unless they're out of town on vacation. And so, but they are a joy to get to know. Would encourage you to do that. So thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome, Jamie. Thank you.